All right, last question, and then we'll land this plane. So, Alan, if every pharmacy owner on this call remembered one thing from you in your experience, what would it be?
Do not let it overwhelm you. I think I freaked out the time when I probably the most when I had to start documenting, because it's to me the work before that was, one step at a time, and then you get in there and you feel like you're having to take care of a whole patient, or at least that's how I felt. I had to do everything day one and take care of the whole patient right then to be doing what I was supposed to be doing for the service. And, Austin was able to show me that that's not the point of that, and so we're here to take care of them month by month in between the visits.
And the reason why I selected Alan is because I just want to kind of point to someone who's gone through all of the steps and is actually seeing live patients now. Like he has devices in the field, he has programs established, he's made his first clinic interaction, and he's got all of his processes in place, and he's officially in the clinical services dynamic. So the goal is today is to listen to his story, take and extract the things that apply for you, and we'll go ahead and get started. But Alan, man, first off, thank you for being willing to do this. I just want to start by kind of teeing you up, and you could share with everybody kind of where you're at, what your role is, what your business model looks like right now.
Yeah. So the pharmacy I work at, Shiloh Apothecary, we do, of course, filling scripts, but actually do compounds as well. And since I've been here, kind of wanted to expand into clinical services. I've wanted to do that for years. I've been here about 2 years now. And so once I got the call from Justin, had reached out, and was kind of excited to be able to do that, because a lot of the clinical things that get offered to us aren't really clinical, or, it's just a few dollars here and there. And so we kind of got into the weeds of the monetary value and the value for your patients too that you can have, it was kind of a no-brainer to hopefully kind of start the clinical services for us. So,
when you first started looking at like APCM and RPM, what made you believe that this was worth pursuing from like a business model standpoint for you?
So chronic care management, I haven't done chronic care management itself, but I've wanted to do that for years. But, once you look at the data, the amount of time you have to spend with patients, it's very, very limiting to how much money you can make per X amount of patients. And with APCM, there's not a quantified time constraint of 20 minutes per month, X, Y, and Z. There is with the RPM. So it kind of builds on itself, and it actually creates the number wise in terms of the payments from Medicare. And so to me, it was kind of a no brainer. And it's actually an actual clinical service too that we make an impact with. I think it's overwhelming at first with APCM because there's so many sections, but we actually impact about 4 on average per month. The rest of them are kind of I don't want to say placeholders, because you may have to document within certain sections, but there's really 4 sections out of those core requirements that are continuously updated. So it's not as time constraining and overwhelming as you may think from the get-go.
I love that you said APCM and RPM together. Did you ever have in mind like a specific program, like going into this way before we even started talking about the actual implementation? Did you already have in your mind what you were going to probably do? And did that change for you as you started to unpack the programs?
Like with APCM, you mean?
Well, just in general, yeah.
Well, I mean, I kind of wanted to get into chronic care management, but that time constraint. So when I found out that APCM was the new model that Medicare was pushing for, which tells you because no one's adopting chronic care management, which means no one's probably going to adopt this either. The staffs at these doctors' offices, much like our staffs, it's hard to implement some of these things. And the biggest driver is I'm almost, just to be quite honest with you, I'm tired of filling prescriptions. It's a battle every day for independent pharmacy. I don't want any more scripts. Now, that's not to say that I haven't gotten patients that are not mine through this already that have already transferred scripts here. Okay.
Mhm.
So that's not to say that I'm going to say no to that. Okay. But because it's so unpredictable, our current model is, so it's and delayed at that. So that's kind of why we wanted to jump on that while we could. So I've worked in our area for almost 10 years. And so, of course, you're always told networking is a big thing with other providers. And so I know whose patient population, is essentially going to which provider. Now we've got a lot of hospital-owned clinics too, which I was saying is everywhere nowadays. But there's still quite a bit of outreach toward independent clinics. That show it's just knowing that, having that information, who you need to target to sign up to.
I mean, there was no magic formula, was there?
No, not at all. Well, I mean, you got to be prepared when you go talk to, if you're not as quote unquote close with some of the providers. I mean, you're really going to have to be on top of your game in terms of the numbers and the impact you're going to make. So I was able to do that through, actually Austin Crocker has a program to go through that actually cuts out a lot of the time for you, and then also actually lowers the amount of errors I would have made on my own. I will say that.
Yeah. When you first started, before things started to click for you, what felt to you, Alan, the most unclear or maybe intimidating for you when you were getting started?
I would probably say I'm pretty familiar with the billing, just because my wife is actually works at a clinic too. So I kind of get the gist of how they bill too, on their end. I think that could probably be an overwhelming position, but mainly the documentation, because a lot of the descriptions of APCM and RPM, it's very vague, in terms of, are you doing it correctly? So that's probably, once you get to that point, was probably the most overwhelming, to be quite honest, in terms of getting started, for sure.
You mentioned Austin Crocker, who's obviously a PharmD that's been doing clinical services for 8 years now. What was there a moment before talking with Austin that you realized, okay, this is bigger than I realized?
Well, yes. I mean, and it's just getting all of the proper documentation, the BAA, I mean, all these other documents that really I didn't really think about, and setting up the contract in a way that makes sense for everyone in terms of risk, the fee for service model that's provided for the clinic. A lot of that, you think that's all a lot of work, and then it keeps building towards getting all your devices and everything else. So there's quite a few steps in there. And I think, again, time is money. And so it is really, with those weekly phone calls I had with him, it really pushed the needle a lot quicker, instead of it taking 6 months, it took 3, and so it really, and there's accountability there, because we're following up each week to make sure each step is done, and so in a timely manner to get the clinic services going. So.
Yeah, and that's not to say that like our interaction, right, was any less valuable. It's just that there was something different. Is that what you mean?
He has, again, like you stated, he has 8 years of experience doing this, and so he definitely can tell you what not to do immediately. And he's available. I mean, I would just text him and ask him, like a quick question, and he could answer it. He gets back with you very quickly. And very oftentimes when you're getting trained through some of those programs, paying extra money to someone, they're not as reachable, I would say, I guess, being able to answer your questions.
So when did, in the journey, like working with Austin, obviously we worked together as well, you and I, but like working with Austin, going through the process of unpacking all of the services and the education, when did this model become actually real for you and tangible for you? Like, what was that click moment where you were like, wow, I'm doing it?
Well, I think once I got the clinic signed, because to me, that's a rate limiting step, right? I mean, you can do all these things. If you don't have a clinic, you're not getting anything done. But fortunately, I was pretty close with the clinic owner already. And they're going through the same things we are, in terms of needing money. And so if there's an extra way to provide a service for the patient, and two, a monetary gain for all parties involved, once that happens, that's kind of when it started getting real for me. And also after I got her patient list too, so.
I mean, that's a great point. So let's talk about the clinic side. Let's keep on that path then. How did you how did you think about the first clinic relationship? I know you said you kind of had an already existing, relationship, like you knew of each other, you spent some time together, you trusted each other. But how was it different from what you thought when approaching that first clinic relationship? Like, what were some of the hurdles you had to face?
Well, I think the probably the communication, even though we were good friends, in terms of how she kind of gave me free range about how it could be done. And but sometimes that's not always the best thing, because if their staff isn't trained as well on what I'm doing, then if I give a staff member a message, they may not understand what that means. So I think that's one of the biggest hurdles, really, is just the staff and us getting on the same page. A little bit. It's gotten a lot.
Yeah. And that's a great point, being on the same page, but there's also a shift in mindset. And this is something that I heard you say probably about 3 or 4 weeks into going through the patient list and figuring out which patients were a really good fit for this program. You said you've always been someone who's been worried about filling prescriptions and, operating the retail side. I feel like there was this moment where you, as a pharmacy, like, a pitch, trying to figure out clinical services, you had this question about, who am I supposed to be in this, in this relationship, and who am I supposed to become? You walked in as a pharmacist, but I think you've walked into this meeting specifically as a valuable clinic partner to that clinic you serve. So I'm curious, what helped you start seeing yourself that way, and what changed your mindset from the old model to now what you're doing now?
Well, I mean, again, we've always that's kind of where my heart is, even though I'm the PIC. I kind of got asked to be in that role, and I was glad to do it. My heart's always been in clinical services, because I've been out since 2014, and that's just kind of where the shift has been, value for service. At least in our state so far, there's just so many programs, and it's a little money here and there. And so, and I kind of wanted to become part of a whole group of individuals that were all doing this, and pushing pharmacy along. Again, it's not just about us, and right now it's about the future of pharmacy too, for people down the road. And so that's kind of where my head was at, in terms of kind of starting these types of programs for especially our local community here. Nobody else is doing it. So
Yeah.
It's the same way in y'all's areas too, fighting against.
Well, I appreciate the honesty there. I mean, it's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows in business, by any means, but to have that shift in mindset, I think it's good for a lot of the other pharmacy owners on the call to hear that. But speaking to honesty, right, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, Alan. And again, please feel free to open up as much as you want to. No one's here to judge. Everybody just wants to learn. But looking back, what mistakes, do you think maybe you had, or maybe you avoided because of help? Or what were some issues that you had that you really wish you could help these guys understand? Hey, don't do this, or think this way, or take this step. What mistakes or issues that you ran into could they learn from?
Again, I'm going to reference back to Austin, but he gives you or gave me a route. And then also, again, the documentation, I was trying to do, even though he was available, I was trying to do it on my own, and off how I thought it would go. And I was really making it way more hard than it should have been. And trying to do everything day one. And that's really not the point of a lot of the services. It's a chronic task that we're able to sign up with and do for all of our patients. So I think that's probably the two biggest things. But he's been a reference in terms of telling me what I'm not doing right, or if I'm doing things, doing too much when you don't have to, which cuts into the cost benefit analysis of being able to do the program.
No, I love that. But and so to the organization and the structure behind the programs, how do you feel like FairPath has the structure of the software has helped you organize the work? Like, what have you noticed?
Oh no, it's not overly complicated, and it's not trying to do too much. It's got everything organized like it needs to. And then Justin and them are always open to feedback on how to improve the program too, which is
Definitely.
one of the best things. And so I would assume a lot of them other companies are just kind of set, and they're not going to change anything. And so But they've been very open about everything. If there's ever an issue that came up, it's solved within 15 minutes. That I've had, not that I've had more than one, but it was easily fixed. So
But now going back to the programs, right? So APCM and RPM are your current operational programs. So you're working with both programs right now, correct?
yes, both are currently active.
Okay. Now, how do you think about and think through those two programs and how they come together in your mind?
So they may go together, but they're still two separate programs in terms of time. So when I'm talking to a patient about RPM first, when they answer the phone, once my time is up with that, I transition over to APCM, side of the program, and then we'll document there because it's still technically two separate programs.
Right.
And so you're not really documenting for RPM within APCM necessarily. Not that you can't talk about the blood pressure through APCM, but it is two separate programs,
Gotcha.
based off the documentation and everything. So
What do you wish you had a better understanding of how to layer these together at first? Like what do you wish you would have known ahead of time that really shocked you when you started putting these pieces into place on top of one another?
well, I think probably what shocked me the most was probably how easy it is to layer the two.
Oh,
It's not, I
okay.
mean, you're already, yeah, I mean, it would be beneficial to essentially always do both. I mean, with every patient, I don't care if it's a blood sugar machine, a weigh scale, whatever it may be. It's just an additional what, and it also helps the patient too, And so I think that's probably a bigger surprise. Not that you can't. I think I've got someone that's just doing a cuff, which is fine. Um, but that data, I think it surprised me how easy it is to download some of the data and share that with the doctor too. So
Sure. You're obviously not just doing clinical services, right? You have other things going on in your pharmacy, I'm assuming.
yes, oh, big time, yeah.
So a lot of people struggle with balance to start out with. Like I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with not the pharmacies here, but maybe other pharmacies that I've spoken with who just haven't had the bandwidth. A lot of people struggle with like, how do I make this fit within my pharmacy? Could you speak to how it works, within your four walls and how you balance what you're doing right now?
So it's still difficult. I think it's probably always going to be difficult. I think there's probably a breaking point once you have so many patients that somebody's just doing that completely full time. I have essentially a calendar system set up to make sure that I follow up with these patients. It doesn't take that long to do a lot of those things. I honestly just scheduled some time while me and another pharmacist are both here to do those things. That's not an
Yeah.
easy, but I still am thinking and working on how to even do that better to make it more efficient. And it's not easy. It's not hard to check the blood pressure readings throughout the day. It's in the queue. I mean, a lot of my patients have not had issues. But again, I think that's probably going to be a struggle, especially in the beginning. You kind of squeeze all these patients into your daily workflow. It's not. I don't want to say it's been hard, but it's just not been the easiest thing for me to figure out. And I'm still working on it. So
It's not natural. It's a learned kind of system. And agreed, it's a new business model for you, right? So learning something new is kind of the priority here. There are some pharmacy owners that still feel like they're really, really far away. You're going through the process. You've already got a clinic. You've got APCM, RPM already established. You've established your first billing cycle. What would you say to that pharmacy owner that feels maybe a little bit behind the eight ball, or maybe like it's not moving as fast?
no, it's right around the corner. I can't even honestly think about how long it took because it feels like it flew by once I got the clinic signed up. And you start grabbing some of your patients, and you don't overwhelm yourself trying to get 50 people in the first month. I mean, you'll be pulling your hair out. Again, I've only got like 8 or 9 currently. You just don't want. I didn't want to fall flat on my face getting 45 people in the first month, because it's a lot, and you're trying
Yeah.
to learn how to do it quickly to make it worth it for you. I'm just telling you, it's right around the corner, and I wouldn't be too overwhelmed or feel like you're too far behind.
Yeah. So I've got two more questions for you, and I appreciate everybody's time commitment here. I know we're going to run over a little bit, but if you were starting over, Alan, what would you do earlier? and what would you not wait on?
I honestly would probably have devoted even more time to get it started even faster if I would have done it over.
Can you elaborate on that? Like, what do you mean by that?
It was about a 3-month window, I think, before I got my first patient, I believe. And it took a while for my blood pressure cuffs to get here. They were on a back order who I ordered them from, so it took like 3 weeks. I kind of wish I would have, not that I didn't devote time to it, but I wish I would have done it, started seeing patients as quickly as month 2 if I could have. Just because I think once you get to that point, the work before that, I mean, it wasn't as much work as you really think it is. I know it seemed like a lot, but I wish I would have seen some patients even sooner. Probably what I would have done.
And what would have helped you do that, do you think?
I think probably devoting even more time trying to balance both, but I probably would have devoted some more time going to the clinic to get my patients quicker.
All right, last question, and then we'll land this plane. So, Alan, if every pharmacy owner on this call remembered one thing from you in your experience, what would it be?
Do not let it overwhelm you. I think I freaked out the time when I probably the most when I had to start documenting, because it's to me the work before that was, one step at a time, and then you get in there and you feel like you're having to take care of a whole patient, or at least that's how I felt. I had to do everything day one and take care of the whole patient right then to be doing what I was supposed to be doing for the service. And Austin was able to show me that that's not the point of that, and so we're here to take care of them month by month in between the visits.
But Alan, man, I really appreciate you sharing today. I know it's, extra for you, and you do not, need, everybody on this call, I want you to take away, you do not have to be where Alan is right now. This is not the point of this call. The point is that there is a path, there are steps, and there are people who have already figured out things that are walking just right ahead of you on this path. And you do not have to figure this out alone either. And what matters most is that we keep moving in the right order. Plan first, preparation second, clinic conversations third, and then you execute with the right guardrails in place, obviously.